Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to Korean comfort food classics with a shot at a spicy barbecue bulgogi chicken. For those unfamiliar, the term bulgogi more broadly refers to a method of marinating and barbecuing in Korean cuisine, whereby our meats are iconically sliced super thin and then marinated and grilled on a barbecue grill, or more often in home cooking, seared in a skillet. You may frequently come across bulgogi done with thinly sliced top-cut sirloin or flank steak, and for those looking, we also dove into a barbecue beef bulgogi in our gimbap and bibimbap recipes a while back. For our version today though, we'll be taking a look at a similarly popular barbecue chicken bulgogi or Dak Bulgogi, done instead with some thinly sliced chicken thigh. Although a Dak Bulgogi is more commonly marinated with a sweet and savory soy sauce glaze, not unlike its red meat counterpart, today I thought I'd instead do our chicken with a spicy marinade, most prominently featuring a bit of gochugaru chili powder and gochujang chili paste to give it its deeply red color. Okay, so let's get into it.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ding, dingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are
Okay, so
calling
diving
you.
right in, I'm kicking things off here first with some fundamental aromatics to accompany our chicken today. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of fine minced ginger and the whites of 3 green onions sliced thinly. Then, as always with our green onions, we're slicing up these leafy greens thinly on a bias and reserving them for our final finishing garnish later on. Then that's actually it for our veggies today. As you might come to notice in a moment, there's not actually going to be a lot going on in our wok today to accompany our chicken, other than a few fundamental aromatics. That's because we're not making a stir fry as you might see in a Chinese dish, but instead the accompaniment to our chicken today will be served as cold sides. In a restaurant, you might often see these served in small plates preceding the meal, known as banchan. More on this in a moment. Anyway, moving on to our chicken next, I've got 3 medium chicken thighs here that I'm using a mallet to flatten out as much as possible before slicing up thinly. As I mentioned earlier, bulgogi is iconically sliced very thinly, so we want to flatten out our chicken before doing anything else to aid in this goal. I'm adding this to a mixing bowl, then setting aside for a moment while I get to work on our marinade next. Okay, so our marinade today is going to very prominently contain a 1/4 cup of gochujang in it, which, for those not familiar, is extremely thick and sticky. So, in preparation of this, we're combining our marinade in a separate bowl today to make it a little bit easier to break this all up into a liquid form before it reaches our chicken. Otherwise, we're going to have clumps of gochujang floating around. Going into my mixing bowl here first is 4 tablespoons of soy sauce to start, followed by a tablespoon each of sesame oil, rice vinegar, and mirin for some sweet-leaning acidic elements today. Then next, rounding out our sugars here is 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, followed as promised by our spicy heat elements. This is 2 tablespoons of gochugaru and 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of gochujang. Now, I find myself saying this to customers at our fried rice pop-up quite a bit, but heat and spiciness is very subjective and really just depends on your own preference. Personally, I find that gochugaru and gochujang are not nearly as spicy as their bright red color implies, but definitely adjust to taste here for your own palates. Finally, I'm mixing this all up with a fork until a smooth paste forms, then combining it all with my chicken and letting this all marinate for 30 minutes or up to 1 hour. Over on the stove, I have my wok heating up here on high heat. Most traditionally, a bulgogi is cooked over an open flame on a barbecue, but very commonly in home cooking, you'll come across this dish done on a stovetop because barbecuing in an apartment is hard. Today, I'll be using a wok sear to emulate the smoky qualities of a barbecue grill, but you could also simply do this in a skillet too. First up, I'm adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil to my wok here, then as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then here's my chicken going in flat side down to maximize our sear. It takes an extra few minutes, but I think adding your chicken here 1 piece at a time really does help achieve a better sear, so don't just dump your chicken in all at once. I'm letting this go for about 2.5 minutes before tossing and sauteing for an additional 1 minute until that chicken is cooked through. If you can manage, some wok hay would be nice, but for whatever reason, mine just wouldn't go for it today. I have a feeling it's because of the high liquid content in our marinade, but oh well. Anyway, I'm cooking in batches here to avoid overloading my wok. I think this took 2 batches altogether today. Then once our chicken is all cooked up, we're removing and reheating our wok so that we may add in those aromatic veggies. Once our wok is nice and hot again, here's my garlic, ginger, and the whites of my green onions going in. We're sauteing these for about 15 seconds until nice and fragrant, then adding our chicken back to the wok along with the remaining marinade left behind. This is the good stuff, so don't let this go to waste. Finally, I'm tossing this all to combine for another 1 to 2 minutes, then removing from heat. Back over on the cutting board. Now, if we were in a restaurant like I mentioned earlier, you would most likely see a dish like this served with a number of banchan small bite dishes preceding the main course. Basically, this would be a bunch of tiny small plates designed to be shared with the whole table. Cold pickled veggies are pretty common for this purpose, but we've also done a number of fancier banchan dishes in this series too, like our gamjajoram braised potatoes, japchae glass noodles, kimchi jeon pancakes, and many others. For our purposes today though, since we're not sharing, I'm just gonna go ahead and assemble this all in a bowl instead. This is a bit of kimchi to start, followed by some cold pickled daikon radish left over from our cold soba noodle recipe from a few weeks back. Then finally the main event. Here's a healthy serving of our spicy barbecue chicken, followed by the greens of our green onions to garnish, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so for those following along with this series, this dish I hope should look not too dissimilar from the spicy pork bulgogi that we did a few months back as well. That's because the marinade that we used here is borrowed from our pork recipe and absolutely translates well with chicken thigh. Our gochujang and gochugaru deeply penetrate the chicken thigh, allowing for a rich, sweet, and savory bite of chicken that can stand all on its own, meaning that if you want, you can absolutely just shovel this chicken into your goddamn mouth with nothing to accompany it. That said though, I will also mention that the crisp and bright qualities of our pickled daikon and kimchi work really well in offsetting some of the more intense umami qualities of our chicken, making for a really nice pairing over rice. Finally, the last bit that I'll mention here is that I'm a big fan of how quick and simple this dish is to bring together. Since our chicken is basically the only thing that we're actually cooking on heat today, I think this whole meal took about 25 minutes to get on the table, which is, as always, my favorite attribute in pretty much any recipe. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to classic Korean dishes, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet, because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, the Woo Can Cook Fried Rice Pop-Up is back at Two Pitchers Brewing in Oakland this weekend, so come by and say hi if you can. More about that at woocancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Let's look at the show. We're riding in a wonderland of snow. Giddy yap, it's grand. Just hold